I know
Yeah.
it's been a while when I saw you at Abbey Road. Like, how's
Yeah. How long ago was that?
that was the early summer, Aprilish, something like that. I
Was
don't know.
it?
Yeah.
It
But
was so, I mean, I've not had the luxury of doing that very often, of getting invited to, the studio and to get to hear something being done like that. And the few times that I have, it's like an out of body experience, just kind of being in that room and seeing it being created. It's pretty special. Do you still get that feeling?
I do. It's I have to say it's not the most relaxing place to be when you've got like 90
Yeah.
musicians staring at you
Yeah.
and a director who's very keen on like last minute changes. So I was sort of, it's one of it's like when you throw a party and you have a great time and you want to do it all over again with the knowledge that it was all going to work out fine, and then you've never really
Yes.
enjoyed it.
Yes. Can you hear bagpipes in the background for me? I'm up in Scotland, at BBC Scotland, about to film, and there's a band called Skerivore who are
Uh-huh.
playing. Can you hear?
Oh, well.
Listen. Oh, now he's just stopped. It's
Ah.
hilarious. He's warming up the pipes in the corridor behind me. So I'm like
Oh,
that. Oh my
they're
God.
properly loud. I put them in a movie score once, and it's unbelievable how loud they are. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine if a Scottish army came over the hill and they
Be
all played bagpipes.
terrified.
You'd be absolutely terrified.
I'm sure that's why they were created and used in the first place.
Yeah.
All stems back from that. And listen, congratulations on
Thanks.
Wonka. It's oh, I just think it's absolutely out of this world and phenomenal, and made me feel. I said to Paul, I chatted to Paul and Neil, and
Yeah.
I said I cried like, quite a few times in the film, and it's kind of really specific crying. It's not sad crying, and it's happy cries, but it's a specific happy cry that you crave because it makes you feel so good.
I know what you mean. I mean, it's very rare to work on something, especially when it's been so intense and so long as this movie, and then find yourself tearing up at the premiere. And it's a lovely kind of very warm kind of feeling, isn't it? I mean, that was always the idea, I think. Paul, wanted to make something that felt like a proper Christmassy treat and properly emotional. And I think somehow or other it's all come together. You really feel connected to these people. You want good things to happen to them. And when they do, it's like crying at a wedding, isn't it? It's that kind of crying.
Yeah, yeah, you're happy for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but when and where did the journey start on Wonka for you? Because we've talked about you loads on this podcast with
um,
Garth.
with Garth, lovely Garth,
Yeah,
nicest
lovely
man on
Garth.
planet
Oh,
Earth. And what a talent as well.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I knew it was happening. And I knew that Neil had written the songs. So people kept saying to me, like, are you going to be working on this? And I was like, well, no one's mentioned it to me. And then I got the call to go up and watch it and have a chat with Paul. Um, and that was back in, I think, September of last year. And then it was then I started out on I was very kind of clear that I thought it was very important that whoever wrote the score also did the arrangements on the songs.
Mm-hmm.
Like on Sing, I had really nothing very much to do with the songs. I just in charge of the score and making, like, and making it all work. But on this, I thought it was really, because the world is so sort of hermetically sealed. The world building is
Absolutely.
really strong and very specific and kind of subtle as well. And if you start kind of like bringing stuff in that doesn't quite work with it, it's just going to derail the whole thing, break the spell. So I wanted to get, my hands on all the musical elements and really kind of pull them together. The songs were in a place where I think some of them were really, the arrangements as I inherited them were not a million miles away from what we ended up with in the film. Some of them we actually took the songs on a really big journey, and I think A World of Your Own, the one where when he's opening the shop, the big kind of valedictory number in the middle of
Yeah.
the film, um, it was in a state where it was a very kind of mellow, reminded me a bit of sort of In the Mood or something. It was a bit sort of had that sort of swing kind of, they
Mm-hmm.
felt like a very kind of pedestrian walking pace thing. And it needed to be like a real sort of, punch in the gut, like, "Well, hey, here we
Yeah.
go."
High
And it kind of,
kicking. Yeah.
yeah, and it kind of wasn't that. So Neil, who I haven't, we're still friends and still in contact every once in a while, but I hadn't worked with him since I got him in to do So Long, Thanks for All the Fish in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was back in like 95. So it's a long time since we were last working
Wow.
together. But, we
That
started
takes a
talking.
moment as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And then we sat down and we just started working. It was like no time had elapsed whatsoever.
Oh,
And we were just like back into, how we always were back in the days when I used to play with him every day. I mean, Divine Comedy days. I mean, there was a couple of years there I didn't even have anywhere to live because there was no point because we were on the tour bus all the time. So it was like a big part of my musical life. But yeah, so I came on board. The first thing we did was reinvent that song as a kind of statement of intent,
mm.
and then took it from there.
Because it's this I think it's really brilliant that there's an essence of that Gene Wilder film, through music, really, but also
Mhm.
I think through Timothy's performance. He
Yeah,
definitely is kind of almost sort of pre-channeling what, that, because it's before, but he's definitely pulled back some Wilderisms, I think, in a
I
way,
think so.
the
Well,
essence of him.
I mean, it's such an amazing performance from both of them, really.
Yeah,
Um, I guess his version of Wonka is sort of nicer, though. I mean, I've been reading a lot of reviews and stuff, people talking about how, the Gene Wilder version, he was, sort of psychotic and, enjoyed watching children being swept to their deaths on tides of chocolate, etc. But that's not how I remember him. I remember him as being sort of
no, not at
weird
all.
and confusing, but not horrible.
Not at all. It was the kids who were horrible.
Yeah, they
It's the
kind of
kids,
deserved,
yeah, it's the
they
kids and the
deserved it.
parents who were like
Yeah,
absolute dicks and deserved everything that they got.
yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
like,
exactly. They got
they
off
were,
lightly.
yeah, they were like, they were in his world and they weren't kind of, they were stepping over the mark, and it was kind of like, guys, we told you. And yeah, not it's so weird because I didn't see him that way at all. I found him kind of absolutely inspired and almost kind of like a kind of a real filter in terms of finding good people in a way,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And I mean, it turns out that his being horrible was actually just a test to see whether Charlie was really the person he thought he was. It's very
Yeah,
biblical, that, isn't it? And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so you don't necessarily, I don't think you see any of that in Timothy Chalamet's
No,
performance, but then he's meant to be very young. He's just, what is he, in his early 20s, and he's such a sort of kid at heart that he hasn't had the time to be kind of, made more cynical.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
But the way that decision was made to pull come with me, as soon as you hear
Yeah.
those three notes and those
Yeah.
that and the Oompa Loompa song as well,
Yeah.
and just the beautiful and clever way that it's not overused, that it's so subtle at times, in the way that it's sprinkled in other things as well. And is that, I don't know, is that a helpful thing, or does it make it more difficult in a way, in terms of, because you're creating everything else that's yours, and you've still got to create in and around that as
Yeah.
well.
Well, we were very keen to you know pull all the music into under the same roof, and the Oompa Loompa song was never really a problem because it's not a million miles away from what Neil wrote with like Scrub Scrub, that sort of minor key, slightly klezmerish vamp. So that seemed to sort of take care of itself. Um, but yeah, Pure Imagination was trickier because the original arrangement on that tune from the 1971 movie is so weird. I mean, if you listen to it, it is just beyond peculiar. Like the ding dong ding bell thing at the beginning, it's like in the wrong key. It's not the same speed. It's got and it's clearly like a chunk of audio they had, because when it starts and then someone just chops it dead, and you hear the edit blonk, and then it starts up again. It never is on the one with the incoming song. It's just really strange. And then once the song sort of gets going, like the woodwind textures and stuff, they're so kind of weirdly psychedelic and
Mhm.
yeah, just hallucinogenic. It's kind of crazy, really beautiful. And then all the other versions I've heard of the song, I mean, I'm sure there's some great ones out there, but I haven't heard them. Most of the other ones, like, you see like Anthony Newley singing it in his Christmas special and
Yeah.
trying to turn it into a kind of Rat Pack kind of toe tapping number. It just isn't that. It loses what's beautiful about the original version. But we didn't want to just do like a takedown of the original version. We wanted to, like, you know drag it kicking and screaming into our world. So we have it at the very beginning, like scored for sort of tinkly bell like instruments in this sort of very sort of deconstructed way, and then we have it at the end in Neil's version, which is like, if Talking Heads were covering it, that's what it would sound like. Again, kind of deconstructed and put back together again in a really interesting way. And then just using it like very judiciously throughout the film to signify something, and the song becomes about Noodle's search for her long lost family and her mother, and very specifically that, and we only hear it when that is the important storyline. And then we hear it, little teases of it, like a couple of bars. I mean, this is obviously necessity being the mother of invention. Every time we use it, obviously cost the production an absolute fortune. So you had to use it in places where you and like where it was just undeniable that it was the right thing to do, because they just told me, no, you can't. You can use it once at the end of the film, and then suddenly it was at the beginning as well. They're like, okay, we'll wear that, but that's it. And then, put it on the bit where Willie and Noodle are really kind of letting down their guard for the first time. She starts talking about her mother, and then put it there, and it was like, all right, you can live there, but no other places. They just put it. It's only there a few times, but yeah.
I love that. It's so well, you're trying to hide it so no one finds it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of sort of, kind of instrumentation as well, because what I love about it is that there's a real mix of kind of sort of textures really to the score throughout the film. And it's not kind of one type of thing, which I think also just kind of is so great and so refreshing when it comes to listening to the score of a film. What were the conversations that you had with Paul with regards to, what he was looking for, and because, the music on the Paddington films is really interesting, in terms of how he constructed that with the use of existing bands and music sometimes and things like that. But in terms of with this and with how, even instrumentation and things like that, what were the conversations that you and Paul had?
Well, so as I say, I inherited the songs in a form which had made a bit of a move in that direction, and the direction we were going to end up with as regards like the choice of instruments. And then there was some temp on there which kind of gave me a bit of a steer as well, but it was a bit confusing. It was a bit sort of everything. So what I did when I started to deliver the demos for the score, I just did them on piano. So it was like a sort of silent, had a sort of silent movie kind of vibe going on.
Lovely.
Because I didn't want to get too bogged down in like choices of instrumentation at an early stage. It was like, let's get the structure of it down and take it from there. And then once that had all been sort of approved, we could start to build. And I worked with my longtime collaborator, Jeremy Holland-Smith, on the whole process. And he's brilliant. He's a brilliant composer in his own right, and he's a wonderful arranger, but also he knows all the best musicians in London, and he knows he knows how to put together a team to kind of be able to deliver whatever they need. So we work with this wonderful guy Dave Foster on the big band arrangements. Big band arranging is like a very specific skill. Like if you don't know that world, like how do you voice those saxophones to sit with the horns, and what's the choice of mutes and stuff to get that sound? And I could have spent years trying to work it out, whereas Dave was just like, oh, you want that, and goes on the page and sounds great. So we had that kind of big wide world for the kind of opulent world of the Gallery Gourmet and Slugworth and the other baddies, who are sort of impeccably dressed, and they always pouring themselves a cocktail in some gorgeous kind of shishi lounge or other. And then we have the more sort of kind of pots and pans and honky tonk piano musical saw world of Scrub It and Bleacher. Then we have a sort of jug band kind of folky world for Willie himself with this sort of threadbare chic, so cymbalums and dulcimers and mandolins and banjos. And then the main kind of meat and drink of the score, which is just a great big orchestra with choir and as many musicians as you could possibly fit in the biggest studios in London,
which I was lucky enough to watch. I mean, that day was amazing. And it was the scene where specifically, I mean, it wasn't, that's the thing as well, even for like those couple of hours that I was there, of how little, it was such a small section of the film that was being worked on at that moment. It was the scene where the giraffe is kind of causing havoc. Yes. And so, it's quite heavy musically as well, in terms of what's going on there. But it was amazing to kind of, I think when I first came in, it was kind of everybody played, and then it was about kind of singling out all the different kind of sections and hearing and it was so amazing just to hear all those individual kind of collection of musicians, the violins, the violas,
Yeah.
and the horns, but it was a great when people weren't working. It's so great to kind of, someone needs to write a sitcom about an orchestra, because when they kind of like are not on, they're kind
Yeah.
of like the Kindles are out, or
Yeah.
it's
You can
so
tell a lot. Like someone will be
it's
doing the crosswords, somebody will be doing the pools, somebody will be reading War and Peace. You know, it's
yeah.
like you couldn't guess which one was going to be which. You know, who's going to be reading the Beano, who's going to be reading War and Peace. You know,
It was from that balcony. It was amazing, just kind of looking down and going, "Oh yes, he's got his Kindle, he's got the
yeah.
paper out." It was like, it was really, but that it was such a luxury to get to kind of see the craft of all those, and
Oh,
amazing to hear you as well in terms of the specificity of what you're looking for, and how you can kind of hear just the tiniest speed, volume, precision on a note. It's unbelievable to
well,
watch.
thanks. It was so nice that you were able to come, and I'm surprised you don't get to do that more often. Well, you can, there's open invitation. You can always swing by when I'm doing something. It's a
I
lovely thing.
am
And
writing that down now.
well, I mean, apart from anything else, we are in London and Britain generally just blessed with just a ridiculous high standard of musicianship in these players. I mean, I would say London, of all the places to score in the whole world, is probably has the richest, the strength and depth, the most incredible players. You got, it's not something that it's something we should be so proud of, but it just gets sort of overlooked. You try doing that score in Prague or something and see how far you get. It's like anybody, we just got anybody and everybody, incredible players coming in and just they just walking off the street with their carry bags, put their to get them out of the place, and then you realize that you're just basking in the glow from the consummate geniuses.
Because some of the time they've never seen the music before, isn't it?
No, most
Sometimes
of the
like
time they've never seen it or heard it, and they just and they get one go, like basically one go to just like, and that would be fine. We've got to move some mics around, and then a second go, and that's it. And then with this one, as you say, we would then record all the individual elements separately. And partly that was because we wanted to have real control over the acoustics, so we could match it to the song kind of world, which was the song stuff. We started out with like a little combo, little band, drums, bass, guitar, keyboards, and then kind of built a sort of nexus, a sort of pit band size thing around it, with the orchestra around that. So if the orchestra sounds like it's recorded in outer space, and the band sounds as recorded in the living room, you're gonna be in trouble. So we needed to be able to be close on everything and have real control over how we wanted to put things in the surround and whatnot. And also the fact is the film was still not finished when we were recording. I mean, that's not
wow.
unusual, but in this instance there was still some parts of the film particularly which were going through like daily changes. And in order for our team of long-suffering music editors to be able to kind of keep taking it apart and stitching it back together again to fit the ever-changing picture, we needed to have absolute control and all the different sort of elements. If we'd have done it in an old-fashioned way, just like a decatry up in a big room and everybody playing together, we would have had to go back and done that all over again. Simple as that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did the had they filmed much then when you came on board? Because I wondered, because also just those the amazing cast that's been brought together for this as well, and how everything just fits so great. Like you mentioned kind of Olivia and Tom's characters, and how they're the music around around them, so it just so fits their performance as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting bit. Every so often when you're scoring a movie, you put something against the picture that suddenly like works in a way you weren't expecting. And when I started putting the music that was like either like directly quoting from Neil's Scrub song, or me writing kind of around it with that kind of like Candor and Ebb idea in mind, it suddenly made them so much more likable. It was weird. Like when they play, on their own with just silence, they played really kind of starkly, and I felt a little bit too grotesque, a little bit too scary for my taste anyway.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you start putting this it's I don't know quite what it is, because
Soften them up a bit.
it did. It made them more. It made you sort of get them more. So when they're being horrible, you're like, yeah, but I know this person, because fundamentally they're okay, really. I mean, yeah, okay. So they're trying to enslave children to work for them, which is obviously not great. But they're not all bad. Is what I'm
There's
saying.
good in there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
deeply buried, but
We're about to run out of time, but I haven't even had a chance to talk about any of the Garth stuff as well, which is just a fantastic relationship that you
oh,
guys
thanks.
have got, and something that I
Yeah,
really hope continues for a very long time.
yeah, me too.
I don't know what he's doing next, but it'll probably be fabulous.
It will be fabulous. I have an idea what he's doing next, and I'm sworn to secrecy, but I can
Okay,
tell you this much: it's
but
going to
you're
be
doing it.
fabulous. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm not letting
Yes.
that guy out my out my sight.
Are you? Yeah, you're. Please, can we? I'm going to make sure I email him and ask him, say that you haven't spilled any beans, but when it does come to fruition, that we can have the two of you together to
Oh, that
talk,
would
and
be
we can
great.
talk about all those amazing productions that you've worked on. But
Thanks.
oh, Wonka is just something very, very special. Well, as I said to the guys at the press conference that I did the other day, it's just the gift that the world needs right now. It's just the best kind of, yeah, best Christmas present, early Christmas present ever. So
Oh, good.
congratulations.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you think so. Well, I'm very, very proud of it, and
Yeah,
I
should
was
be.
happy that you were able to be there for a very important part of it. Those giraffe. That's well, that giraffe,
Yeah.
which is
And you're
yeah,
Rowan Atkinson like that.
yeah, yeah. Well
Feel
timed.
very honest, a lovely memory I'll have for the rest of my life being there. So yeah.
Great.
It's great to chat to you, and I hope we get
Likewise.
to do it again soon.
Me too. Well, you know where I am.
Thanks,
Take
Joby.
care.
Take care. Bye, lovely. See you
Bye.
later.
Bye.